Hello and welcome to MediaBistro.com's Media Beat. We're here today with Contessa Brewer, and I'm Kevin Alaka, the editor of TV Newser. Thanks for joining us, Contessa.
I have never heard your name pronounced. I'm glad to know it.
Really, Alaka?
Yes.
Yeah. So Contessa is a anchor at MSNBC, and we're going to talk a little bit about your career and how you got there.
Okay.
And like a lot of newscasters, you sort of spend some time making the rounds at some local stations. And I'm kind of wondering, how did you make that jump to the major network?
I went through unemployment first. That was a big part of getting the job at MSNBC because I had applied for a lot of jobs at stations in Boston and Los Angeles and Houston and Phoenix, and there were some of those stations I thought would have been a good fit for me, and it didn't happen. And then my agent said MSNBC was interested, and I went through a wicked audition process. I mean, this audition at MSNBC, I think, has become famous because it's got to be like the Marine Corps' obstacle course in order to land this job. Yeah, I rewrote a lot of my scripts for this. I'm thinking I'm big stuff, right? I'm tackling the scripts for this audition, and as soon as you launch into the script, they're in your ear and they're throwing breaking news at you, and they want you to jungle it. And the thing is that in local news, you don't juggle breaking news like you do in cable news. So, well, I finished the obstacle course because I landed the job, but I'll tell you, I've never been through an audition like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I read that you had an academic background in politics also. Do you think that that's been an asset for you since you've been there?
Absolutely. I mean, I studied politics in college. I went to Europe and I studied European politics. And I never, once you were in local news, I never really anticipated that I was going to use it. Here, there's really an opportunity to dive in and to see politics in action and see the storyline develop and get to know the players in a way that I just never could have imagined.
I'm sure you've put that to use a lot in a lot of the interviews that you've done. I'm kind of wondering, which do you feel like was maybe one of the toughest ones that you've had to do?
A political interview?
Or any sort of interview, actually.
Well, the hard thing is I do have some guests who they come on and they're prepared to be challenging and to be difficult. Those are always the hardest interviews, when someone comes on with an agenda and their agenda is to take you down. It's challenging when you're dealing with someone who is so well prepared on a specific topic, that they're the expert and they spent their whole lives diving into a certain subject, and you have to play devil's advocate with them and challenge them on something that, you spend at best hours preparing for. I had a pretty intense interview with Michael Chertoff back when he was the Homeland Security Secretary. There was an interview with Judd Gregg recently where I think what he was expecting out of the interview and what we and my partner at the time was Melissa Francis when we were doing It's the Economy. I think that was it was a difficult interview to conduct. But usually when you have guests on who are difficult, or if they're sticking their heels in the ground and you just end it, you move on.
Yeah. You also have another role, which is the host of Caught on Camera, which is very different from the rest of your day.
Brian Williams actually described it to me once as like a car crash. He said you're driving by it and you should look away, but you really can't. And my boss, Phil Griffin, says, you're on the treadmill and all of a sudden that's on and you got to stay on the treadmill for a little while longer because you can't stop watching it. I think it's like being addicted to drugs. It's not good for you, but it's a lot of, no, I'm not going to say that. that was going to go somewhere that kids, should know that drugs aren't good.
We have a lot of child viewers of this Media Beat program.
Right.
Speaking of actually childhood, but a different direction, I also read that you used to do a lot of acting when you were in high school. Yeah. Would you ever? People that do that bug sort of stays with them. I think a lot of the time. Do you ever feel that ever again?
Yes, I would love to be an actress. I am itching so much to land a small role on an off Broadway show. I would love to be an actress again, but the audition process to me is so damaging because here's the thing: you show up for this audition. And you're up against, again, people who really know what they're doing and spend their whole lives chasing down this part. And then I show up and I'm like, oh, acting is really fun. It would be fun. It would be a lark to land a role. And you're up against people who do this way better than you. And I just can't take the rejection if you want to know the truth.
Well, I think you have a future in news, so it'll be okay.
You do?
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, well, that's the end of part one of our interview. We're going to come back and talk to Contessa some more about MSNBC. This has been MediaBistro.com's Media Beat.